Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, where the state of our industry is changing. So let's get right to what everyone is talking about. New York City's rental market continues to evolve at a rapid pace, shaped by affordability pressures, shifting demand across boroughs, tighter inventory, and a growing emphasis on transparency and compliance. Renters today are navigating higher expectations than landlords, more complex application requirements, and increasing competition for well-priced apartments, while agents are balancing speed, security, and accuracy in every transaction. At the same time, technology is stepping in to streamline one of the most frustrating parts of the process, verification and documentation. Platforms like Verified ID are changing how identity checks, financial verification, and application screenings are handled, helping reduce fraud, accelerate approvals, and create a smoother, more secure experience for renters, landlords, and brokers alike. So today, we're taking a closer look at where the New York City rental market stands right now and how smart technology solutions are shaping the way deals are done. And here on set with me today are Gabe Einhorn from Verified ID, Mike Bussey from Real New York City Apartments, and Moshe Atone from Brown Harris Stevens. And they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate. So let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. And today we're going to talk about the status of the rental industry here in the rental market, in the insurance industry here in New York City. You know, we talked about it a little bit on last week's show. The rental market's been steaming and zooming and booming, and the prices keep going higher and higher and higher. I mean, all good for, landlords and condo owners who need to rent their units. But I want to talk a little bit today about what the actual tenant, the actual renter is thinking about. Because like everything else, like on the buy side, they've been carrying on about interest rates for the longest time. Now they're kind of settling into the normal interest rate, about 6%, a little under 5%. So we're getting back to, normal thinking. Also on the rental side, we have an application called Verified ID that's going to help you understand the process better. And we've got the company owner here to talk about that, and we will get to that in a minute. But let's first start, Mike. Let me start with you. Let's start with the big picture. How would you describe the New York City rental market right now in terms of demand, in pricing, and more importantly, in competition?
Yeah. So, as we all know, the New York City rental market is very cyclical. So we should have seen it calm down November through January, but it really didn't. And I don't know if that's a huge demand, but what we're seeing is such a lack of inventory because so many tenants are looking at an 8% renewal and they go out and look what else is out there, and there just aren't really great options right now. I think that'll kind of level off, especially we have so many new developments popping up all over the financial district, Hudson Yards, so many in Midtown. So hopefully that'll subside, but it has been, like you said, extremely hectic, and the demand is still strong, but there's just not a ton of inventory. So competition is through the roof.
Now, I know you've also jumped into the sales side of our business and doing extremely well. Congratulations from what I see.
Thank you.
But back to the rental conversation, though, what I have been seeing on the sales side, common charges, maintenance have been going up double digits, right? Yeah. Double digits, 10% and more. So that's a lot of money on the buy side when you're buying something. So you're telling me 8%, is that about average in increase in rents or not? Because that's high.
It's going to depend a lot on the neighborhood. I don't have the exact figure on what the renewal is. What we've seen, especially because, my team, we work a lot with new buildings. So the pressure that you're seeing is someone who moved in with, 2 months on a 24-month lease, 2 months free on a 24-month lease. They're seeing their gross go back to what it would have been when they were paying the net. And then they're getting anywhere from 5 to 8% on top of that. If you're in a really, really competitive neighborhood like the West Village or Tribeca, it
forget
could be
it.
double digits.
Yeah, and people are happy to be paying these prices. This is what's amazing to me. They're happy to be paying these prices because
Happy
on the
is
buy
it.
side, when they factor in the cost of maintenance, when they factor in the cost of interest rates, when they factor in the purchase price of each unit, you know, they're happy to pay the rental price. More importantly, they're happy to stay in their rental and renew, which I just did a renewal on a pretty nice size rental the other day for one of my condo owners, and the tenants who have been there for a long time got quite a significant increase to bring them up to really what the market rate is all about today. And, you know, they happily paid it,
Yeah.
right? Well, in your opinion, where do you see most of the pressure today? Is it the first-time rental people, the entry-level rental people, or is it folks who have rented before and maybe moving on to their second apartment or their third apartment? Where in your orbit do you see most of the pressure today?
I see most of the pressure happening in the entry level. A lot of college students and entry level jobs are really competitive right now, especially in the $3,500 to $4,500 range. Mostly, like how Mike said, a lot of people are starting to renew rather than find new apartments. So that's why it's kind of been a little bit intense on the inventory side.
We're going to get to you in a minute, Mr. Gabe.
I'm ready.
But what are the biggest pain points that renters and agents are experiencing during the rental process? Now we're going to talk about your application, but we'll talk about it. So what are the biggest pain points that I guess renters are experiencing when they have to go through the process, right? And you can let us know your opinion in a minute too. What bothers them the most?
For sure. Me and Mike just spoke about this before. Number one, obviously gathering all the documents, organizing everything, and being ready. The competition is very fierce, so you got to be ready with all your documents on the spot. So having a place to have those documents is important. And then the trust factor on both sides, right? Agents are getting tons. Like we said, the demand is crazy. So you're getting hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. How do you know who's legit, who to trust, who to spend your time with, right? Anything can be fraud now. So knowing who to trust, both on the renter side, for you to trust that broker that it's legit, and for the broker to trust that applicant is legit. So those are probably the biggest problems we're seeing.
And when you ask people to, we'll talk about verified ID in a minute though, but when you ask people to get involved in it, I mean, this sounds to me like on the sales side, right? We have board packager, or now it's called domicile, I believe, where, a buyer puts in all their information, which has made the sale process a lot easier and a lot quicker, right? So are people experiencing a much easier time doing a rental these days with verified ID?
For sure, yeah. I mean, we're getting you prepared before the process even starts. So the second you speak with that broker, he has you upload all your documents, you make that profile for yourself, you can verify your identity and the income also, so that broker knows that number one, you're legit, and number two, you're actually qualified to afford what he's renting to you.
Mike, on the technology front, okay, and we all know how technology has helped us in the real estate industry as a whole, right? Where do you place technology in your day-to-day? What do you think about technology? Do you think it helps on the rental side as well as the sales side?
Yeah.
And where would we be without continual improvements on the tech side?
I mean, tech, especially as a young guy, is always going to be potentially top 3 in terms of priorities and usefulness. I'll tell you this. There was a time where every single closing was in person. I have a closing coming up in April. That's going to be completely virtual. So the tech there is great. But, a company like Verify ID is going to be extremely helpful because there's fraud in the city is rampant right now. So every single landlord is asking for way more documentation, way more proof, but also they all have a wildly different process when you're doing a rental. So if there is a way to kind of standardize it and make sure that everyone within the...
Not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about why the process is different from the landlord and building perspective, from a condo perspective. Where are the differences? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
To a renter who's out there renting, for the first time, right?
Yeah.
You think, I'm just going to go rent an apartment. Okay. Next.
Yeah, so I mean, the top layer is obviously there's New York law, which everyone taking in an application has to follow. But then from there, each building can have wildly different rules, whether it's 80 times the monthly rent and annual income for a guarantor, whether it's 40 times, it could be, I've seen 72, I've seen 48, I've seen 30. But then they also want different documents. Some will accept a CPA letter, some won't, some will accept a corporate lease, some won't. It's very hectic. And from a broker's perspective, when you go to a client and they say, hey, this building last time fully qualified my lease, why is this new building not doing it now? And it's a tricky situation. So
I feel very old when I'm sitting here with these youngins, okay, talking about being successful in the real estate business, which they really are. So, and it's all good, okay. Moshe, so when a renter comes to you, when you meet a renter for the first time, right? You're introduced to them, they're a lead or whatever it is. What is it that they're actually looking for? Do they want a condo? Do they want a building where a landlord is involved? Do they even know? And how do you guide them into one or the other?
It's kind of a tricky situation nowadays, especially with all the new laws coming into play. It's really about trying to help them find what's really right for them, whether it be a co-op or whether it be a condo. But really, I see them more focused on buildings per se, rather than specifically co-ops or condos. So like, oh, I'm really interested in the Kingsley. So It's just going to figure out then, like Mike said earlier, like what are their rules, what are their requirements, and what are they looking for? So I think that's just really interesting to see how it goes really from basis to basis rather than just have like a straight line to follow.
Gabe, we're going to talk about Verify ID right here. However, before we get to that, do you think because the rental market is very hot and very strong right now and has been for probably 2 years, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Or more, is that helping you in your business endeavors? Is it, making people focus more on what your application can do to help them in the process or not? And also, please, for the audience out there, listeners and viewers, tell us what Verified ID is.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. So Verified ID is a process to help rentals move faster and safer by providing secure document sharing, pre-verification of identity and income, and a trusted way for brokers and landlords to actually evaluate real information. So our idea is to become the trusted infrastructure for transactions on both sides, both the renter, the landlord, and the broker. So we're trying to eliminate fraud, reduce scams, and really help the process move faster and safer. So we're seeing a lot of rentals right now. We're seeing the process be very crazy. It's definitely helping us. A lot of renters are confused by the process. Landlords, like you said, are asking for more information. So it's definitely helpful, but also New York City has more laws. So like we're speaking with people outside of New York City, and it's a little bit less complicated in regards to rules and regulations. But I would say just the demand in New York City in general has helped us because we have more renters that are, number one, looking for apartments, and number two, confused by the process. So if we could help guide them and educate them throughout the process, it's good for us.
And as I said before, on the sales side, we have something called domicile, or used to be called board packager, where you input all your information on the sales side. But I think one of the important things to remember or to understand, and especially for your application, Verified ID, is we don't remove the human aspect of the deal. Explain that to us, because a lot of people think because we're automating and everything is so easy, just put it in and push a button and it goes somewhere. We don't really take the human interaction out of it, correct? No. Human beings still matter in rentals, in sales, and everything, right? I mean, we can all agree to that.
For sure, yeah. I mean, that human interaction, allowing the broker to do his number one job, which is the actual interaction with that renter, guiding him, helping him find that process. That's the most important. So if we could essentially remove the stress of organizing the documents, verifying that tenant, and allowing them to actually do the job of the human interaction, then they can actually do their job the best and help that client.
Mike, you mentioned fraud before, misrepresentation, and we can go down the list of all kinds of, naughty things that go on both the rental side and the sales side. How significant is that, or how much have you seen in your world of rentals through the years? And you've also been extremely successful in that, building a business, okay, Real New York City Apartments. Do you see a lot of fraud? And is it things that we could kind of erase if we paid more attention to it?
So we hear about a lot of fraud. We also kind of see fraud before it happens because we are very strict in how we qualify our clients. Obviously anybody has had a client move in and the building does, or, especially at these larger rental buildings, they'll do, their qualification process, and sometimes people slip through and you don't expect it. They pull up in a Range Rover, the car's $100,000, you think that they're fine. But it's
judging someone by their car. Here we go.
If you can get,
Hey, listen.
So it
happens.
Fraud is absolutely out there, especially in New York City, where, if someone moves in with fake documents, it might take a year to get them out of that apartment, depending on the building. So landlords are obviously extremely nervous about that, and they are changing their application requirements. I've seen a lot of buildings say, hey, if you have a bank statement with $1 million in it, we'll fully qualify you. But now they're seeing like, hey, anybody with ChatGPT or Photoshop can fake a bank statement. So now they're going to encrypted bank statements where you download it directly from the bank's website, upload it into a secure software, which I'm sure Verify ID will do something like that. Mm-hmm. And you can know that, Bank of America is standing behind this bank statement.
Moshe, so when you get a new client, and all of you actually, how do you verify them? How do you make sure that they aren't frauds? How do you, what do you ask of them to give you? On the sales side, I always ask for a financial statement because I need to know what they have, what they don't have. Can they afford this apartment? How much of a down payment do you have? Listed cash in banks. How much money, if it's a co-op, do you have left over? Because co-op boards are going to look to see your overall financial position before you purchase and then certainly after. If you don't have any money afterward, the co-op says, well, we don't want you. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we don't want you. Mm-hmm. What kind of process do you go through with a renter when you first meet them? And you sit them down, hopefully, and interview them and say, here's the process. This is what I need from you, and here's why.
I think the most important thing is tax returns. I feel like it's very easy to kind of use ChatGPT and these other AIs to kind of fake your bank statement. But I feel like a tax return is much harder to fake. On top of that, I think an employment letter is also really, really important. So you make sure that you actually have reoccurring income rather than just have a bank statement. I think that's been the most helpful thing for me is an employment letter, because as soon as a landlord sees that, they feel a little bit more secure that they have reoccurring income rather than just X amount of money in a bank account.
Gabe, we talk about, the process slowing down on the rental side, even on the sales side. And one of the things we look for as agents is to try and figure out ways to kind of expedite the process, whatever that process is. Verified ID does that, right? Yeah. How do you convince, renters that this is the right thing to do for all the right reasons and that it's going to help you in pushing the transaction forward? Look, on the rental side, just like in the old days of the hot markets on the sales side, there's competition.
Yep.
Right? And you want to get in there first and you want to stick. So how do you convince them that if you use this application, it's going to work for you and get you in front of the right people faster than not?
Yeah, it's easier to convince people who have actually been through the process. Those are the guys that say, okay,
right,
we've seen it before, it's easy. People that are just coming into New York, it's hard to convince them. We tell them obviously the statistics and that you'll be organized, that there's hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. So it's really the first person that gets their information in will win. So it's as simple as that. If you could take it or leave it, but people who have been through the process, even just one time, they see, okay, it's a mess. Any way that we can be prepared, organized, will benefit from that.
All right, we have to take a quick break. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We aren't going anywhere. These gentlemen have a lot more to say, and so do I. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, we are back. So, Gabe, before the process we were talking about, before the commercial, we were talking about the process and speeding it up, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have proof of how it's actually helped clients get into an apartment where they may have had a problem before because they didn't want to cooperate? Again, on the sales side, we have all kinds of issues with it. I don't want to, as Moshe said before, I don't want to give you a tax return. I don't want to do this. I want privacy, privacy, privacy. And one of the things that people are concerned about with any technology application is inputting my data into a machine, into a computer. But when you convince people that you need to do that to expedite the process, right, it's going to work.
For sure. Yeah. So we've seen some good proof there. A mix of, we've seen a lot of students where they have guarantors.
Yeah.
Right. So the student himself.
I was going to ask you about that. Go ahead.
The student himself is not dealing with the process. He doesn't even know what documents he needs. He's calling up his dad and saying, hey, Dad, I need you to send me all the information. The dad is saying, I don't want to give you my information. I don't want to send it to a random
Dad's
broker.
Dad's going to say, no, time out, not happening.
So we present that student or even get on a call or speak to the father or the guarantor and present him a way that he can securely store that information, make sure that whoever it's getting sent to, it will be done securely and that his information is not getting sent to some random brokers or random people.
Mike, so when you approach somebody and tell them they've got to give you these documents, as I asked Moshe before, what's the pushback? I mean, no one wants to give tax returns. No one wants to give an employment letter. Why do you need to know all my personal information? And we go through the same thing on the sales side. I don't want it, and I tell them all the time, especially when I'm dealing with a co-op buyer for the first time in their life, I said, you have to literally undress in front of the board. Period. Done. Exposure.
No, you're 100% right, and a big part of that is obviously
that's how it works in New York, right?
New York is the city of compromises sometimes, where it's like, I know you don't want to do it, but like, if you want a great apartment, if you want to get this deal done, you just kind of have to. The issue that we've seen a lot is just a comfort level, and if people aren't prepared for that, they're going to be really caught off guard. So something that I really don't like is, let's say you go file an application, a lot of, brokers or buildings will say like, hey, just email me your tax returns. And nobody feels that that's secured. So if you have a secure site where you can go in, everything's there, that, you can retract that link at any time. You could potentially have all of the documents wiped after the process is done. I think that would really, really help get people to be a lot more comfortable, because I get it. Like, I don't want my bank statements out there. I don't want people knowing my business.
No one does. But do you think that technology is elevating agents as being more professional versus, just doing things the old-fashioned way? I mean, How do you think technology is helping us as professionals? Again, whether it's on the rental side and using apps like Verified ID, or on the sales side, Domicile. How is that elevating our professionalism? Because quite frankly, and I talk about this every time I'm teaching, we don't have great, reputations out there all the time. Sometimes for understandable reasons and for correct reasons, okay? We're not those kind of banana heads. However, it does exist. How do you think, that technology can, or does it, elevate us professionally?
Anything that makes the process easier for your client is going to make your life a million times easier, because I'm sure everybody who's worked in real estate has known that, like, when a deal gets tough, no matter whose fault it is, your client's probably going to call you and scream at you. And, you could do everything perfectly.
Is that going to happen?
But it really makes your life so much easier. And if you're it's similar to, someone who knows how to use AI. I pray AI doesn't replace us, but if you know how to use AI, if you know how to use a site like Verify ID, it's just going to level up the level of service that you can offer to your client. So I think that's really the benefit that you'll find.
It's interesting you mentioned AI just before. Actually, as I was in, Lyft car service coming here this morning to the studio, I've got so many different things happening in, in my real estate world these days. And so I realized this morning, after 2 days of asking an agent who's representing a sale, it happens to be an HDFC sale. So there are income limitations to a buyer buying into that building. So I had to get back to this buyer because I put her off for 2 days. So I finally said, I don't have time to call her now. She ain't going to answer the phone anyway. So I put it into AI and asked what the income restrictions were or cap was for this particular building address. Within seconds, I got a response.
Be careful with that, I will say.
No.
Yeah, always double check.
Yeah.
No, I did.
Yeah, good.
But I got a response. And I'm like, okay.
No,
of course, I went back and
Yeah.
And it seems like it was verified.
Yeah.
But at least I can tell the client, hey, listen, this is the number I got right now. I'm in a meeting, and I will verify this for you. But I feel like it's pretty comfortable and it kind of makes sense based on the purchase price, whatever. But I look at AI, I look at technology, and I think, and I'm the old guy on set here, okay? Where the hell and I grew up in technology working at IBM, okay? I sold tech before you guys were even born. Oh my God, isn't that sad? That's very sad. But it's true.
It's life.
Yes, it's life.
What do you do about it?
How does AI or technology in general make you feel more professional, or does it?
I think it depends on the agent. For myself, I'm not really just asking ChatGPT for something and waiting for an answer. So it's really there to kind of hold your hand and not to do the whole process for you. Like, I've seen some people kind of just give it the task and watch it kind of do the task for itself instead of it, again, just holding your hand and help you through it. And I don't know, but we can ask Mike, but I feel like something like Verified ID is really awesome because instead of documents taking days, it's now a matter of like an hour or two in order to get it done. And like we said earlier, it's more like a race nowadays to get an apartment. So there's very limited inventory. And I feel like it's, again, whoever just gets in the correct amount of paperwork in time. So it's basically like first come, first serve. And I think that Verify ID and these types of platforms are really going to help our clients be first rather than just be left behind.
Gabe, so who are you selling, your application to primarily? Is it the landlords out there? Is it the broker community out there? Is it companies in general out there, managers who manage, people who work on the rental side? Where is your first and foremost audience when you're out there selling what it is you've created and what you have to offer?
For sure. I would say in New York City, especially where there's rental brokers, those are probably the people we're speaking to the most, whether it's individual agents or some smaller teams. Eventually, we'll get into some bigger companies as well. Outside of New York City, there's not really any rental brokers, so we're dealing more with the property managers, the leasing agents, or the landlords.
Oh, there's a good point. Property managers. Okay, go ahead.
So property managers. I mean, in New York City as well, there's property managers that we're speaking to, but more on the smaller scale right now. And then just everyday renters, everyday people, even buyers, because buyers also deal with the same problem of, number one, being organized, and number two, being pre-verified. So it's really, we're trying to hit both sides of the table. Initially, it was just for the renter. We realized in order to help the brokers, the landlords, to get everybody on board, you got to provide value for everybody.
We have an owner of a property management company who is a host on this network, and he's got a really pretty good show. Managing Manhattan, I think it's called, is a really, really good show. Okay. And, his firm and his people manage buildings, right? So I think I connected you with him. I don't know where that went, but...
Who is it?
Dylan Pachulik?
Yes.
Yeah.
We spoke with him.
He's got a lot of people who deal with a lot of buildings on the rental side. So it's interesting that you said that, because when I asked the question, I forgot about the property management, because they have a lot of input into, what's available in these buildings, and they get first crack, before agents do. Most of the time, they get first crack at renting them out. Mike, from your perspective, though, you've seen, now you've been in the rental business for a long time. You've seen the market change, okay?
Oh, yeah.
From just a normal market to a very hot market to whatever. How has the clientele changed? Meaning, what is the personality changes potentially that renters out there maybe have taken on that they didn't 3 or 4 or 5 years ago?
That's a good question. I mean, our clientele has stayed pretty much the same because, our lead generation has stayed pretty much the same, especially through social media. So, we get pretty much every broker in New York City will tell you, we get a lot of people in tech, finance, a lot of people who are going to school, or and it's a very diverse clientele, which is always really great because you're getting something completely different every time. We do everything from $3,000 studios to $75,000 a month townhouses. So it gets hectic. But I don't know if I've seen a ton of changes. People aren't as stressed out as they once were, which is actually really nice. And that could just be, I'm seeing it because my team and I have trained so hard to kind of make people feel comfortable with the search. But I remember when I started, it was like, hey, welcome to New York City. Here's a floor plan. You want to rent it? And a lot
I can get it for you.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've seen a huge change, but there's definitely been a shift in the feeling of the market.
One of the reasons I asked the question is because we did a show here a couple of weeks ago where we talked about, who is buying today? Okay, who's buying today? And we determined, with all the different generations of labels or whatever, that millennials have finally stepped up to the plate, right? And I guess that's 30-something up to 40 or 41 years of age. For a long time, even on this show, we talked about it. They were kind of taking a back seat. They really weren't interested. They really didn't want to buy anything, really didn't want to rent at high prices. They wanted to just keep their hard-earned money in the bank so they can go out on the weekends and get trashed with their friends and have a good time and go on vacation and blah, blah, whatever. Not a bad thing, right? As time went on, in a short period of time, they decided, I think, home ownership is where to go. Yeah. And so we determined at the end of that hour that buyers today, for the most part, are millennials buying in big numbers. And also for a reason, when they first started buying, they were going to the suburbs and the outskirts of New York City because it was a lot cheaper. Yeah. They can get a lot more for their money. They can get land, or whatever it is. Then they realized, I don't want to commute. I work in New York City. I want to live in New York City, whatever. So it's come back here. And so I wonder on the rental side if it's the same thing, that for a while everybody kind of slowed down a bit. Rentals started, just like on the buy side. Prices go up. buyers run down the street with their hair on fire because they can't buy fast enough. They pay over the asking price. They get in bidding wars. I think it's the same on the rental side, right?
Yeah.
When rentals are going up, people are saying, hey, I need to get out there and rent. I would assume more millennials are renting than not. Would you?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Gen Z catching up. Right, I forgot what the age group is there, but
We're trying.
We're
trying.
trying. There we go. We've got 3 of them here, probably. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're catching up, and it makes sense. But what's the biggest concern, though, Moshe, that a renter has when they're out there looking? Is it price point? Is it building? Is it location? I mean, we can talk about Brooklyn being hot, hot, hot. We did on the show, an earlier show this morning. The Brooklyn locations are hotter today than they've been for years. So where are people looking for rentals?
I would say Park Slope is super hot, and it's been really hot for a really long time.
Park Slope.
Park Slope. I remember I went in with one of my like 3rd or 4th rental clients, and I remember we went into an open house and we had an appointment. So I thought, oh, we have an appointment, we're all good to go.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden we showed up, and there was a line for over like 50, 60 people. We were waiting there for 35, 45 minutes. I remember I ordered an Uber, and we just we ended up moving to Bay Ridge. And she was like, oh, like I wanted to live in Park Slope and so. But then all of a sudden we went to Bay Ridge, and it really kind of opened up her world to Brooklyn, because people hear Brooklyn, they only think about like Williamsburg, Greenpoint, all these beautiful places now. But there's really so much more to Brooklyn than these big names. So I think...
Yeah, no, I agree. But any other neighborhood, and you know, you deal with a lot of folks as well. Are there any other neighborhoods? I mean, I agree with what he just said. I mean, those neighborhoods, I mean, not for anything, but I'm old enough to remember that friends of mine, when I was in college, they were going to college in New York City or in Westchester, where I was. And when they finished, they would not go back to Brooklyn. They ran away from Brooklyn. Think of the movie Saturday Night Fever. Remember everybody running over the bridge to Manhattan? They couldn't wait to get out of Brooklyn. Who wants to be in Brooklyn? Now it's the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a show. What do they call Manhattan now? Like Work Island or something like that?
Yeah.
There's like this big push that like people are like, I go to work in Manhattan and then I want to live in Brooklyn.
I mean,
It makes sense. I mean,
everywhere.
if you can't afford to go spend $40 on a cocktail in the West Village, you know, go out to a different part of
my
Brooklyn.
martini would cost $45.
Yeah, Bemelman's, they're pricey now.
Yes, they.
Closed out Bemelman's the other night. That was a bad idea.
Oh my God, I love that place.
Oh, it's the best.
Oh my God,
it's the best. It's too fun.
Gabe, what legal, privacy, or fair housing considerations should agents or landlords keep in mind when using automated tools like Verified ID or AI or whatever in the process of making rentals easier? Are there things that we should be concerned about?
I think the most important thing is consent, right? Anytime you're dealing with somebody's personal information, you got to make sure that you have consent to view it, to send it, right? Because sometimes the broker is not the one making the decision. He's got to now send it to the landlord to approve that applicant. You have to make sure that there's consent involved, because if you're sending around his personal information, that's obviously not legal. So I think consent, dealing with that personal information, is probably the most important thing. And then also just like equal, I forgot what equal rights or whatever they call it when you can't discriminate against.
Well, fair housing.
Fair housing.
Under
So
the fair
obviously
housing
that's
umbrella
important.
is everybody is entitled to live wherever they want to, as long as they can afford to.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of really asking about the application.
Yeah.
You know, do landlords look at the application and say, oh, I don't want this person,
Yeah.
or I don't want that person, because maybe they can tell what their ethnic background is from the application? Maybe they can't. I don't know.
Yeah,
Have
so-
you encountered anything like that?
I mean,
Because fair
it
housing
happens-
is a big deal
Yeah.
on the rental side more than the sales side, but it's a really big deal in this town.
Yeah, I mean, I think New York City is probably the most intense where it comes
Yeah.
to that. I would say for us, we're trying to standardize the process for that landlord. So when that landlord receives all those applicants, we're trying to rank them based on, number one, all the documents they've sent, completeness of the document. So if they're required to send 8 documents, we would rank them based on who sent all of those 8 documents. From there, we have the verification of the identity and the income. So you could see which guys are verified, legit, and then you could see if they've sent you all the information. So making it a more standard way, instead of you just looking at 10 different people being like, oh, you know, this guy sounds weird, I don't want him. This guy looks cool, I'll take him.
Mike, do you ever, look at an applicant? And again, you have a very, very, very big and important website on social media, Real New York City Apartments. And if I remember correctly, you're telling me recently you got so many leads. You get so many leads on individual, postings that you put. Do you find people who come through that are just interested because they're interested, or are they really, really, really interested in wanting to talk to you or one of your team members and go forward because they're sincerely liking what they see or really want that apartment, whatever.
Yeah. So
I mean, I can only imagine you get a lot of banana heads or boneheads.
we've gotten a lot of really interesting characters. There's
You'll put it in a book someday when you write a book.
one
right?
day, one day. You'll be in that book. It's social media. You get a lot of 12-year-olds who are like, I want to spend $1 billion. And trust me, I'd love to send them $1 billion apartment.
How do I spell a billion?
Yeah. But no, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be doing this if we didn't get like legitimate clientele. Right. Like our most recent deal was the last list was like 5.1 million. And that guy reached out on TikTok.
Wow.
And he's an adult, which like I'm an adult now, but I still don't consider myself.
I'm an adult.
But I was really impressed. I was like, wow, this guy watches our TikToks, and he just went and spent $5 million on the Upper West.
I think I saw something in one of your recent postings that you put on a very expensive apartment. Maybe it was that one where somebody came, a lead from social media, and there were people out there who still say, "How is that possible?"
It's crazy.
Everyone's on social media nowadays.
But everyone is on social media these days, right? And the leads that you get, and you too, are significant because people are out there watching. It can get to a point where you've got to really verify these people and really make sure that they're real. No one wants their time wasted. They don't want their time wasted. You don't, unless they're jokesters and are just putting something out there for the fun of it. But you got to pay attention, especially when you're talking now on the sales side where you're big numbers. Yeah. Right. I want to buy $1 billion apartment. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to win the $1 billion lottery too. Isn't that something?
Me too.
When someone reaches out for $10, $20 million, it's pretty easy to Google them and say, like, if you're spending $20 million on a pied-à-terre, you're probably going to come up. So we have a few steps to like really verify clients, and we're always very respectful. Obviously, if we can't find someone, there's a good chance that maybe they're just very private. So we put a lot of weight into like actually verifying people, because at the end of the day, we're brokers and we have a reputation. Vince, if I brought you a client and they wasted 3 months of our time and we were thinking we were going into contract, the unit's off market, you'd probably never talk to me again.
People say to me all the time, and you guys have probably heard the same thing, when it comes to social media, when it comes to leads, when it comes to the people who contact us for X or whatever, people say to me, if somebody wants to buy a $5 million apartment, $10 million apartment, why are they searching on social media? I mean, I still hear things like this. Why don't they just call an agent directly? Good question, but I'm not going to say don't do social media, because it certainly is a great...
The world's changed.
The world has changed.
People use social media for Google and for looking up things, so...
It's better than Google, to tell you the truth. So you look at social media and say, hey, I like that apartment. So maybe I'm not working with an agent yet, but I'm interested in that apartment. I want to go see it, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe 1 out of 15 leads works out, but it's a lead and it's potentially going to work, right?
And you also have to remember, I mean, social media caters your algorithm to you.
Well, correct.
So somehow, I don't know how they know, but eventually social media will realize, hey, this person's probably looking to buy an apartment in New York. Show them my video and they go, hey, that's a nice apartment. Let me chat with Mike. And from there, if we're able to build a rapport and earn that person's trust, we'll get that client. So that's kind of the methodology.
Tell me a little bit about Verified ID and your thoughts on how, I mean, we've obviously, talked about how effective it can be and should be and will be going forward. But when you look at that application, when you think of your rental client base, will it work for you? Does it work for you? And how much of a promoter are you with it?
Yeah, so I think we're chatting about like getting access to actually like run through everything. But, Gabe and I have talked a ton about Verify ID, and I'm all for it. Anything that makes my clients' lives easier and makes them more comfortable with the process is universally a win, especially if it also makes the landlord feel better that they're getting a full verified application. So I'm all for it. I hope we get to like fully integrate it and, run to a bunch of different landlords and chat with a bunch of different brokers about it. And I hope my clients get to use it.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We're coming right back. More with these guys right after these messages. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. We will be right back.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place. The More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting getmorenetwork.com.
We're back. Moshe, let me ask you. So, when we think about offering automated tools to renters, automated tools to sellers, to buyers, what is the first thing that comes to a renter's mind when you say, okay, we've got to use this application, and here's all the reasons why, here's how it's going to help push our process faster? Do you get pushback on that conversation, or is it age-related? Older people not necessarily wanting to get involved in it, younger people saying, yeah, right on, I get it, it's perfectly fine for me, because most people who are younger have more comfort when it comes to technology.
100%.
Do you see any difference there at all, or?
100%. For people like us, we talked about it, the Gen Zers, it's kind of technology has become kind of first nature. We grew up with it, so it's a lot more trusting. But let's say somebody around their 30s or even 40s, they got a lot more like spectacle about it, and they're like, hey, how do I know that this information is really going to who it needs to go to, and how do I know that it's stored correctly in the cloud? And the more I hear about Verify ID,
point.
I love it, Verify ID. It's because, like we said earlier, it's more like a race nowadays to get an apartment rather than who's actually qualified for it. So it's just like I've personally missed out on an apartment because I didn't have my documents in place. So as soon as I met Gabe and he told me about this, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Because instead of going and refinding it, because I was looking in March, right? And then all of a sudden I didn't find anything in March, and then I looked again in July. I didn't have my documents in place. So I missed out on that opportunity. And then having Verify ID, I would have already had my documents in one spot,
Right.
and I would have been able to submit it. So I think it's absolutely amazing.
And having all your documents in one place in verified ID, do you recommend renters start the process before they start looking for a place? As Gabe just said, maybe he missed out on a place or two because scrambling to get who has all the documents in one place? I don't, and I don't even know how many apartments in my lifetime. I don't have everything in one place. I got to go searching in credenzas and cabinets and file cabinets, like whatever.
Yeah.
Does it make sense for people to do it right up front?
100%. I mean, the biggest thing is people are typically lazy, so they don't want to do anything until it's like a big need. But I would say it would help both the renter and the broker.
That might be me.
That's just how people are. But if they are in enough of a need or in enough of a desire for it, then they'll be willing to take the extra 5 minutes to get ready. It'll help them in the process, and it'll help the broker as well. So it's a no-brainer.
All right, you're not an agent, but how intense do you see the rental market these days compared to what it may have been even a year ago or 2 years ago? Forget 5 years ago. Do you see intensity in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's always intense. Like Mike said, there's not a lot of stuff out there for people. The demand's always high. I think the vacancy rate is like almost 1%. So like there's really nothing out there for people. So anybody looking for an apartment, the biggest thing they're saying is, I can't find something. I'm looking, I can't find something. When I do find something, there's another 100 people looking for it. If you're dealing with, New York City lotteries or other things, and there's thousands of people. So it's like, you can't just be the only guy looking for an apartment in New York City. It's never like that. So
no, it's certainly never like that. We wish we had that competition these days on the sales side.
Yeah.
Wake up, buyers. Okay, it's about time. But when you look at actually what's out there and who's paying attention, is there a particular age group that's renting more? And we talked about millennials waking up and doing. But do you see from the verified ID process, particular age groups of renters out there, or is it kind of like running the gamut?
I mean, we're dealing with a lot of students and people that are post-grad because they're younger, they're not as educated, they're
Right.
dealing with guarantors, so we're helping them with that process. So they're kind of flocking to us more. People that are older, they've gotten apartments before, they have families that they might not be as much into tech, so they're staying away. I think there's still plenty of those people that are renting too, but the people that we're dealing with are typically that younger audience.
How are younger students post-college, affording these prices, Mike? I mean, look, you're a social media, wizard, and you get all kinds of leads. But when people come in right out of, post-college, I mean, listen, 22, 23, 24 years old, maybe they're working for 1 year or about to get a job. And even if that income is high, as I think most of you said before, they may not have enough money in a down payment if they're buying something. But on a rental side, you got to have money to qualify too. How are these younger folk, I guess, able to afford the higher or steeper prices that we're seeing today that we haven't ever seen before?
It's a mix of things.
And isn't it daunting to them?
Oh, there's no worse conversation than when someone reaches out and they're like, "Hey, there's 3 of us. We want to spend $6,000 on a 3-bed in Manhattan," and I'm like, "I don't know where that is."
Yeah.
But we can try to find it. But a lot of it is using guarantors. Also, like Moshe said, like if you if you have an offer letter, let's say you have there's 3 people in an apartment, you have 3 offer letters that make up 40 times. A lot of landlords will accept that, especially if it's from a reputable company and they can verify with the company. And then how to afford it, I'm assuming a lot of people's parents are helping them, which is
Just
not
like on the buy side.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's kind of across the country at this point, especially as rents continue to go up, that a lot of people who are Gen Z, even some millennials, their parents are still helping them with expenses just because everything has gotten so unbelievably expensive.
Gabe, Mike brings up a good point. 3 people wanting to rent shares, okay, 4 people in an apartment. Is your application set up to handle 3 or 4 different qualifications?
Yeah, so we're working on that because when my brother came up with the idea, he was renting with 2 other friends, and they all had guarantors. They're all in NYU. They're all college students. So it was 3 of them, each had a guarantor. So 6 people with 6 different things of documents.
Yeah.
So we're creating like a folder where you can invite your 2 other friends into your folder. So now when you send it over, it's your entire application package for all 3 applicants.
Now, talk a little bit about the building. So Mike also mentioned, 45 times the rent. I've rented to people where buildings, special
80.
buildings want,
80x,
50% or more. Is the application set up where you can do a calculation based on their income that the building wants this, but your income is here, so you're not going to qualify? Or do you not do that and you leave that to the agent and or the landlord?
Yeah, I mean, that's their job. I think if we qualified them and said, oh, they're qualified because they're 80x the rent, and then they're not, we would be liable for that. So we don't want to be liable for legal reasons for that.
Yeah.
But we do offer the verification of the income through the banks, actual bank accounts. So it verifies the actual income of the individual. So you'll have the verified yearly income of that person, and then it's just up to the broker to do the simple math.
Mike, is there a sweet spot when you're renting out there? Do people look for certain things? Is it lifestyle? Is it I need to live here? I want to live here? Moshe mentioned, Brooklyn neighborhoods. Or is it like, Mike, here's what I have to spend. Find me a great home. I don't really care. I mean, I don't really care what neighborhood it's in.
Yeah.
Music to an agent's ears. But does that really, really happen? Or do they say, nope, I want this, and nope, I want that, and here's what I have, and then you got to sit back and say, well, just like we do on the buy side too sometimes, you can't afford that building.
Yeah.
You're not going to get past the board. Sorry.
Yeah. And obviously we've had to have tough conversations with people where it's just, hey, like what you're looking for doesn't exist. We've said that phrase a lot recently, unfortunately. We always find people a place. But I think what it comes down to is it really depends on the person. Some people will say, if I can get a nice view, I'll live anywhere. I Uber everywhere anyway. Some people will say, I don't care. I will sacrifice anything and everything to live in the West Village. So it just depends on the client. And we spend, every client that we have, there's a 10 to 20 minute phone call where we try to understand exactly who they are, what they want, what they're looking for.
Amen.
Yeah. And it's, through that conversation, our agents are trained well enough that they can say like, hey, if you want a full amenity building, a 2-bed in a full amenity building in the West Village, it doesn't really exist, No. So we can offer them alternatives.
But one of the things you just said is near and dear to my heart, and I've practiced this for a long time. When I'm teaching, I say the same thing. When you first start with a renter and you first start with a buyer, you sit them down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before you run around showing them 10 apartments, either on whatever it is, sit them down, talk to them, get to know them, interview them, ask the questions, give them a financial statement, understand what they can afford.
Yeah.
Understand what their money is going to buy them. Again, whether it's a rental or a purchase, because no one wants their time wasted.
Of course.
And before you sit down as the professional real estate agent and come up with a series of apartments to show them, you have to know if they're going to qualify to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have a fair housing rule that says you really can't ask anybody. Like, in other words, say I'm a listing agent on a rental, and when a renter comes in, I can't ask that renter when they're in the apartment, how much do you earn? How much money do you have? It's against our fair housing laws. Mm-hmm. But paper can ask any question that you can't, right? So when you do an application up front or when you do an application after the fact, okay, I'm going to take you as buyer, as rental tenant agent, I'm going to take it to this apartment or that apartment because you can afford it. Because I happen to know the building requires 40 or 45 times the rent or whatever the number is. But if you don't sit down with these people right up front, you have no clue.
Of course.
How often, Moshe, do people give you a hard time when you attempt to try and do that? I mean, I get a hard time oftentimes from people. All they want to do is run around and look at apartments. Well, that's great.
It's been kind of funny. It's been a real learning curve to see like a lot of people come on there. Oh, I want to get an apartment in Park Slope. And the sad reality of things, just like how Mike said, it's just it's not possible.
No.
So it's just about. I know me and you kind of spoke about this the other week. It's more about being a people's agent rather than a transactional agent and just trying to get money in your pocket, really.
Relationship, my friend.
Exactly. So it's more about understanding what that person's looking for rather than just running around with them and finding that right apartment for them.
That's
so
right.
That's why I think that we're in the greatest people business in the world, is because we're like therapists, barbers, and bartenders.
Now he's sounding like me. There you go. Makes sense to me. But you're right. You're absolutely correct. Because we are all of those people. And sometimes I go home at the end of the night. You've heard me say this before. You know, in the morning I say to myself before I leave my house, how are you going to be memorable today?
Yes, sir.
How are you going to be memorable today?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Every day.
Every day. And when I come home at night and I walk in my door, I say the same thing. Were you memorable today? 98% of the time, I give myself a yes. You know, once in a blue moon, for whatever reason, I don't give myself a yes. And that means dealing with buyers and dealing with sellers and renters and making them understand professionally, maybe, or maybe some days just a smile. Doesn't matter what it may be, right? Just a smile. Or you meet somebody for the first time and you can feel, you know, that nice, warm, you know, whatever. We are people, or we should be, or we are in the wrong business. The greatest melting pot in the world and the greatest people business in the world, right here in good old New York City. Mike, looking ahead, what does a New York rental transaction look like? We know what it was in the past. We know what it is today with the help of verified ID and more tools coming up and as Gabe enhances his application. But what does a transaction look like 5 years from now? Any different? Is there a need to be different?
There's always changes that could make it more efficient and easier on the client. I think technology will play a huge role in that. I think understanding how brokers actually work a deal, I think that'll stay relatively the same. Because, you know, at the end of the day, this is a people's business. And if it's too tech heavy, people won't really feel that personal connection. Like, I want my real estate broker, I want my wealth manager, I want my bartender to be a person. You know, those are the big three.
I like that group of people.
Good,
here.
Yeah, it's good. That's good.
He got the wealth manager.
Wealth management,
That's
Yeah,
good.
because you know, if I'm trusting you with my money, you gotta. You know, I don't want a robot doing that. But yeah, I think it'll look very similar, but I think it will be very heavily tech focused, especially with the verification and the qualification for the application.
And Gabe, I'm very proud of you, as I always tell you whenever I talk to you or see you. But so more automation, more secure, more regulated as your application grows 5 years from now. Where do you see us 5 years from now from an automated or technology perspective in the pursuit of making rental transactions smoother, better, faster, whatever?
Yeah, I mean,
you must have plans going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of plans, obviously. We don't want to look too far ahead because then you kind of lose the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the storage and the sending of the documents, obviously automating that, making that process smoother, as well as the verification, right? The broker doesn't want to spend his time researching that tenant, spending all the time verifying him, right? If you could automate that verification system and the broker could focus on the relationship side of things, which they do best, I think that's what will be in 5 years from now, where it's still that human touch, that relationship, because the brokers need that. And I think real estate is behind in technology for a reason, because that part of the business is so important. So I think that'll still be the same in 5 years.
Listen, I've said on this show many, many times 24 years ago. And 24 years ago, by the way, people, is not a long time ago, okay? 24 years ago, when I first became I wasn't even born yet.
I was one at the time.
I get it, guys. But what my point there is, we didn't have technology 24 years ago. 24 years ago.
Crazy.
We didn't have websites. Our company here, Halstead and Brown Harris, were the first companies to come up with a company website for agents to use. Then Corcoran followed, and Element followed, and blah, blah, whatever. There was no technology. I mean, you know, you had to rely on your database to search for apartments and buyers out there. That's why, the world has changed with buyers and renters. If they wanted to know anything about anything available, they had to call an agent. Today, with all the automation and all the technology, they don't have to do that. StreetEasy, for one, right? We have our love-hate relationship with StreetEasy, but at the end of the day, right, they get all the information they need. We didn't have that 24 years ago. So I'm curious. Today, you guys are young. The industry has gotten younger. I was talking about this at the Inman conference, I think, last week, whatever. Everybody who's coming into this industry today are younger. I think that's an incredible thing. I think it's an incredible change because you guys bring to the industry what I call the new knowledge, the new awareness of technology, the new understanding of how all of these things can help us get better. Right? What are your thoughts on the newer guard, the newer agents versus what I call the older guard, right?
Yeah.
Not that we want to disparage, but we want to,
I will. No, I'm kidding.
we want to talk about where are the advantages to all these young Turks coming into the business. I mean, I think it's a great thing.
It's phenomenal. I've gotten a lot of trouble in real estate because I'm so young. A lot of the old guard is not crazy about
We've talked about
me
that.
walking into an apartment. But no, it's really important to have new, fresh ideas coming into real estate because people got so comfortable within their ways and it made the market so inefficient. And it made it kind of
Inefficient, absolutely.
like almost like exclusive. Like, if you're a big agent, your friends know about your off-market listings. But especially as new people come in, the flow of ideas and the cooperative nature of real estate has become great. Like I know a lot of agents who sit there and say like, we can both win. This is not a zero-sum game. I can get my 3%, you can get yours. So let's work together, and that's been really great. That's been a huge change I've seen in the past 5 years.
Let's talk quickly before we run out of time here. The rental laws have changed as of last June, so going on 1 year, right? The only person who gets paid a commission on the rental side these days is the listing agent paid by the landlord or the condo owner. Now, if you're working with a tenant and you want to take them around, you get an understanding or an agreement with that tenant that if I help you find an apartment, you have to pay my commission. Now, that's either going to work or it's not going to work, okay? And on the buy side, it's pretty similar these days. And not that I'm a naysayer, but I'm like, okay, I get New York long enough and well enough. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I don't think that's going to work. What are your all opinions on tenants paying commissions and how then is it going to affect your business as a rental agent?
So the Fair Act was scary, to say the least, because I don't think it was very well thought out.
Not
I think
at all.
the idea made sense. Like, if
I can't say it on air because we'll get bleeped out. But, it did not make sense on any level.
No, I don't think it made a lot of sense. We were fortunate that all of our clients directly hire us. We don't rep a lot of units. The units that we do rep, the landlords, thankfully, we've known them for so long that they, kept us on. They paid our commissions. I'm not a huge fan of it, but thankfully it hasn't hurt me. I know it's hurt a lot of other brokers though, because that's how people made their living. They would list apartments, they'd charge 15% and call it a day.
Exactly. But now if you're listing an apartment, whenever I do rentals, it's only in a condo, my condo owner. So I'm getting paid by the owners and that's that. But I feel it for both sides. Trust me, Moshe, from your perspective, how do you think this is going to affect our industry going forward? The Fair Act, as Mike labeled it, how's it going to affect us?
You're funny. You were asking about real estate in the next 5 years. I've been in the business now for about 2-3 years now, and it's already changed so much. So in the next 5 years, I can't even imagine what it would look like because this Fair Act wanted to make apartments more affordable and to have everything straightforward and out into the open with all the fees, etc. But in reality, it made everything a lot more expensive. Like if you would look at the median average of prices in Manhattan, and that's really where all the demand is. It's on those entry market apartments. It definitely got a lot more difficult for those types of people. Like a perfect example would be I represent this apartment in the Kingsley, like we previously spoke about, and before the base rent 3 years ago was $3,200. Now that very same apartment is now being rented for $4,500, $4,700. So instead of it being more affordable, it's really a smack in the face to a lot of these young guys like myself and us here at the panel that can't now afford these apartments. Instead of it being more affordable, it's really just, again, like a smack in the face. It's insane.
And as we continue, Gabe, take us home. What is your sales pitch for Verified ID? Why are we so excited about this? How is it going to help us as agents and also as landlords and condo owners and whatever, and renters, by the way?
For sure. Well, I mean, like we said, as technology improves, there's going to be more AI fraud, more fake documents, more fake information. So it's more important than ever to verify that person, verify their identity, verify their income. And if there's a way to do that upfront, instead of that broker spending 1 month, 2 months, 3 months dealing with that person, getting to the closing table and seeing, oh, wait, he actually doesn't have the money or he's a fraud, right? The broker's most important thing is their time, right? They only make money if they close the deal. So they waste all that time with fraudulent people, fraudulent documents. If we can stop that up front, stop the fraud, make everything safer, smoother, then real estate will continue to grow as an industry.
And that's that. What a great show. Pay attention. Rental side can be even more difficult to maneuver through than the buy side, and that's really always been the case. But we're coming right back after these commercial breaks with my final thoughts, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts. So as we discussed today, the New York City rental market remains one of the most dynamic and at times challenging environments in all of real estate. High demand, tighter inventory, evolving regulations, and increasing scrutiny around applications have changed how deals move from inquiry to signed lease. At the same time, technology platforms like Verified ID are stepping in to bring more structure, speed, and security to a process that has historically been fragmented and paper-heavy. But while digital verification and automation can reduce fraud and streamline approvals, the human element, experienced agents guiding clients, interpreting nuance, and protecting compliance remains essential. The future of New York City rentals will likely be a balance between smart technology and smart professionals working together to create a more transparent, efficient, and trusted experience for everyone involved. And that is our episode today of Talking New York Real Estate. As we head into a new year, remember, it's not about grand promises or overnight change. It's about intention, choosing clarity over noise, growth over comfort, and being deliberate in how we show up every day. Thank you for listening, watching, and being a part of this conversation. And if this episode brought value, share it, subscribe, and keep asking the questions that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep finding your space. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, Substack, Blue Sky, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. And Norman Vincent Peale said, shoot for the moon, everyone. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am so grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.